It's a mouthful, but that's what we got. So just a little bit about me. I'm Doug Burns, at DougSec on Twitter. There's a blog that I posted on twice. Should be more, so if I do, I'll post it on Twitter. I'm a senior security analyst for a large media company. Got some letters behind my name, got OSCP in June, which is kind of a big accomplishment for me. GCED, so I got some blue team experience too, and CEH, because why not? So my interests lie in CTFs, playing this weekend at Derbycon, so if you got flags, I'll take them. Malware analysis, of course, board games, and everybody loves cats. So, just want to give a little bit of a roadmap about how we're going to get from where we're from the beginning to the end. Just kind of a disclaimer here. This is a very low-level talk, so if you're using IDA every day and you're reversing executables and doing all kinds of crazy debugging and stuff, this is probably going to be information that you already know. Hopefully you can pick something up out of it, but just want to get that out there. So I want to talk about a couple different things. Why do we want to analyze malware? What's the point? We're all busy. Why even spend the time on it? Some other things. So then we'll go into like some preparations and precautions because you are dealing with malware. So like you don't want to be the person to infect your entire company with ransomware. So how can you make sure that doesn't happen? Where are we going to get the malware? Then we're going to analyze the malware. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about prevention, some quick wins, and some things that you can do to increase your security posture so that you can kind of lessen your malware load. So why analyze malware? What's wrong with VirusTotal, right? Everybody loves VirusTotal. You can throw your executable up there, and it'll scan it with every AV engine, and maybe there's some comments in there that say, oh, look at all these indicators I found. That's awesome, right? That is good. That's what I did for a really long time. You just throw it on VirusTotal. Oh, I've got something nobody's seen before. I'm helping the community. Sure, you are. But then I was taking a pen testing class with Dave Kennedy, actually, at Black Hat, and he presented the idea that attackers could also be using VirusTotal. So if this is a targeted attack, I'm going to have a VirusTotal API, and I'm going to call that thing every 5 minutes looking for you to upload my executable so that I know, oh, I'm caught, so I'm going to shut everything down and try again in a couple more months and hope I don't get caught. So there are better ways to do it other than VirusTotal. Not everybody's in a targeted attack. I'd say 99.99% of the time it's just going to be internet weather, just random ransomware that you're just getting because you have an email address. But in the case that it is a targeted attack, you should keep your cards to your chest as long as you can. So when we're going to analyze malware, you need to start with questions, right? Because you could analyze malware forever, all day long. You get down and you've got the debugger and the disassembly and you're going crazy. But if that's not what you need to know, then you're just spinning your wheels on it. So before you analyze malware or before you start a program or a process for analyzing malware, formulate some questions so that you can have these questions and at the end of it you can answer it and then you can put it to bed. So are you sure none of your users are infected, right? So you get the email in, somebody says, hey, can you check this out for me? You're like, oh yeah, that's badness. You look in the email filter and you find that 10 other people got it. You send the email to the 10 people, don't open this. If you did, let me know, right? But sometimes people aren't so forthcoming about letting you know that they opened the files because they're embarrassed or because they think they're going to get in trouble. So there's a lot of reasons that a user might open a file and then not report it to you. And maybe they don't understand the ramifications of what they're doing. So if you're not analyzing malware and looking for these indicators on your network, then the malware is just going to run crazy because you don't actually know whether anybody opened it or not. Next question is, what was the email actually trying to accomplish? So was it a phishing link? Were they just trying to steal Gmail and Dropbox, stuff like that? Or was it a targeted attack? Was it a targeted phish? And it looks like your company's website, and they're saying, hey, give me your domain credentials because this is a new update. That's something that might be a little bit more interesting. And then if it's a file, what's the file trying to do? Is it just random ransomware, or is it something that looks more targeted? Are there things in there that are indicators like your company? Are there names within the documents and stuff like that? So just kind of assessing what the threat is. And then the last point, why did your users even receive the email, right? We're all spending a ton of money on email filters, host-based detection, all the fancy boxes with blinky lights. So we should be safe. No spam, no malware in the email, right? So why are they getting it? Is there anything that we can do to make sure that this type of stuff doesn't happen again? So precautions and preparations. Always use a VM. So if you can swing it, you're best to have 2 VMs. I would recommend like a VPS just out somewhere that's not tied to your corporate network. Run it on a personal credit card, expense it off to your boss, just non-attributable to your company, so that there's no way that anybody can link your VPS machine back to your company. And then just a local VM. So a Windows VM, if you've got it and you can get the licensing, you can just install something if you got the licensing. But if you don't have licensing for it or you don't want to spend the money on it, you can go to modern.ie. Windows has done a really cool thing, Microsoft, and they actually release VM images for Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, for a whole slew of different browsers. It's got some weird licensing things where it's like 30 days or something, it's going to crap out. But if you just take a snapshot and keep reverting back to that snapshot, you'll never hit the license period. So you can just kind of keep using it as your little sandbox. So on your VPS, if you really want to level it up, you might look at running something like Remnux. There's a couple different ways you can get it on there. Remnux is a specialized Linux distribution specifically for malware analysis. You're going to have a whole slew of tools in there that like you'll probably never touch, but there's a few things in there that you will use. And as you progress, and if you decide to go further down it, then you'll already have the toolkit there. So if you go to the Remnux website, they've got a Revelo script, which basically pushes it out to like AWS or Azure or something like that. Or you can just do a regular Linux install, and they have install scripts where you just run it from the fresh install and it installs all the tools on it. So important thing to note here is that even static analysis can lead to execution. So even though you think you're not executing malware, maybe you're just running it through some tools and things like that, it could be that while you're doing the static analysis and running it through your tools, that malware is actually being executed just because of the way that it analyzes and how it has to get the information that it needs. So as you learn, there's certain tools that are more likely and less likely, but by and large, just use a VM, right? Keep it sandboxed away. Don't let it be connected to your corporate network. And then the other good thing is you can start fresh every time. So you can just start with a fresh, good analysis environment. You don't have a lot of junk sitting around from macros that you've already extracted and things like that. You just have a fresh spot. So where do you get malware? You've got to get your malware from your users, right? Because you can go to Malshare or whatever and download malware and like look at all this cool fancy stuff. But if that's not what's in your environment, then who cares, right? So you should be encouraging your users to send you as much email as they could possibly send you. You're going to hate yourself at the end of the day because your mail load is going to triple. But you've got to do it. You're going to see a lot of Nigerian stuff, but like it mixed in with that, you're going to see the malware. And that's the important thing. So another way to kind of train your users to get more malware to you is to phish yourself. So there's a couple different programs for this. There's an open source one called GoPhish. It's completely open source. You spin up a server, you run it, you can send phishes to your users. If you want to spend a little bit of money in it, there's a service called KnowBefore. It's actually Kevin Mitnick's company, and they have some user awareness videos and things like that. But the cost of admission really is their phishing module, because it's just incredible. You can run great reports, you can set up schedules, you can randomize when people get the emails, you can include documents. It's really amazing. And for the price they charge for it, it's a steal. So if you want to spend some money in it and you've got some extra budget, definitely check out KnowBefore. And then the last thing is gamification. So even when you're phishing your users and even when you're getting them to send you emails, if you can kind of make this into a game, then you're going to get a lot more participation from it. So a couple things that I've done in previous jobs is one time we would send out phishes to our users, and we would organize it by department. And so then we would have the highest clickers in the department, and we put it up on a board in the break room. So if finance has 12 people clicking malicious links and they're at the top of it, that gets a lot of people's attention. And managers all the way through finance are going to say, hey guys, we really need to like step it up and make sure that we're not at the top of that list anymore. And you'll see that those people drop off really quick. Another cool thing that I did with gamification is when I'm sending phishes out, I sent an email out when we started the program and said, hey, I'm going to start phishing people. If you send me the email back that I sent to you with the phish, I'll enter your name into a drawing for like a $100 gift card. And people loved it. I mean, my gosh, like the day that the gift card was drawn, it was like electric in the office, and everybody was sending emails. And then my email load tripled again, so more coffee. So here's kind of a methodology. This is a short talk, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of this. But if you have a chance, I'm going to put these slides up on SlideShare, and I'll tweet it out. So this is something you can kind of print out, stick it on your cube, wall, office, whatever you got. And just kind of walk you through like what you're looking at, right? So you're going to acquire the email. What's in the email, right? Is it a link or is it an attachment? If it's a link, kind of go through here, do some OSINT on the link and things like that. I'm not going to get into that too much because we're not talking about it. But if it's an attachment, then what type of attachment is it? Is it an Office doc? Then we're going to use a tool called OFFICEMALSCANNER, and I'm going to go over that in a little bit. If it's something where the code's already there, like a JavaScript or something like that, that's just packed inside of a zip file, then you can go straight into static analysis. And OFFICEMALSCANNER is going to feed into static analysis. So for this methodology and for the beginning, that's the way I say to go. Just go ahead and pull out the macros if it's an Office doc, pull out the JavaScript, and then do static analysis on it. I know it sounds scary, but we're going to get through it. And then once you go do the static analysis, figure out what the payload is. Was it self-contained? Was that actually the malware? Was it actually in the macro? Was it actually the JavaScript was the ransomware? Or was it a dropper where it's not the malware, it's going to reach out somewhere else and pull down the second stage, which is the malware. And so once you figured that out, both of those feed back in to check your current defenses. So check and see what you've got in place already. Check your URL filter. Is it getting blocked? Check your IP filter. Is that getting blocked? Check your AV. Check any kind of host-based protection that you have. So is there any way that you're already blocking this stuff? So it doesn't matter if anybody opened it or not. And if there are holes, where can you build up those defenses? What can you beef up so that you don't get this stuff in the future? Or you can prevent people from downloading the second stage or executing the malware. So initial triage. We're going to go back to VirusTotal, right? I know I said not to use VirusTotal, but there are good things that we can do with VirusTotal. So you want to search VirusTotal. So if you look at VirusTotal, everybody goes to file, you upload your file, you go for it. That's the bad stuff. We don't want to do that. But over on the right, there's search. Search is amazing. You can't, as far as I know, there's no way to actually look through VirusTotal searches. So nobody can detect whether you're searching for the hash of that file. So that's a quick way to go ahead and, like, you're basically doing the same thing without tipping your hand and uploading a new binary. So generate the MD5 sum of the file. WinMD5, it'll do that for you. Just copy and paste, put it in there, and see what happens. And if it shows up, that's great. Then somebody else has already seen it. You can kind of, all right, it's not a targeted attack, kind of internet weather, and move along like that. If it hasn't been seen before, then maybe you're going to be a little bit more on edge. Say, well, let's see what I've got here. But it depends on what you're searching to, right? I mean, if it's first thing in the morning or in the UK or something like that, obviously, you're probably going to have more new things. That's it. So, once we do that, then we've decided that we don't have any information from VirusTotal. Nobody's given us indicators or anything like that. Or maybe it's not even showing up in VirusTotal. Now what you're going to do, if it's an Office document, you're going to use OFFICEMALSCANNER. It's a great tool. I've used it a lot. It was a tool released in 2009 by Frank Baldwin. His website is reconstructor.org. So it can be used to scan Office docs for shellcode, PE files, embedded OLE streams, and can also be used to extract macros. So it used to be a lot of times the macros would actually be malicious things, and they would be doing malicious things. But AV's gotten pretty good about detecting when it's actually the macro code that's doing bad stuff. So a lot of times it's just going to be a macro that's in there. And it's going to be a downloader or something like that. It also supports inflating docx, XLSX, PPTX. So if you're not aware, those are basically like zip files. You can literally just open them up like a zip file and see all the formatting and stuff, and the macros are also going to be in there. Just kind of a word of warning. If you do go download this, I always get caught by this, so I just put it in the slides so that if you get the slides, then you'll have it. But the zip file that you get is password protected. The password is reconstructor.org. I always, for some reason, forget that, and I try to open it, and like, oh, what's the password? And then I have to go to his website, and that's the password, and it's really embarrassing. So, this is what OFFICEMALSCANNER looks like when you run it, with no files or anything like that. So, you can see here, it kind of gives you the usage, OFFICEMALSCANNER, the file you want to look at. You can scan it for shellcode. You can do info, which is going to dump it for macro stuff. You can inflate, which is where we're inflating those X files. Brute force it, so if there's like encrypted strings, it can actually do some brute forcing on that encryption to get you plain text information or find shellcode that's been encrypted. And then debug, so if it finds something, it can actually print out some disassembly for you. So that's basically it. So you run OFFICEMALSCANNER, the file you want to do, and for this purposes, we're going to use info most of the time. So, static analysis. This is where it gets really fun, right? You don't have to be a programmer to do static analysis. I am a terrible programmer. But if I can sit down with a static file and look at it for an hour or so, I can generally pull out what I need to know. Because most of the time, all I'm looking for is an IP address or a URL. And if that's all you're looking for, then this scary stuff really isn't that scary because you're only targeting certain information that's relevant to what you need. That's where we're going back to the questions that we had at the beginning. So there's two main obfuscation things that I've seen just in my experience. One that's very common is variables that are used to build commands. So if you're not familiar, not a programmer, a variable is just essentially a box that's going to contain something else. So if I could take the sentence, the hat is black, then I could store the in the A variable, hat in the B variable, and black in the C variable, and then I can say A plus B plus C equals the hat is black. It's super simple, but it just looks nasty because everything's in like upper and lower case and numbers, and it just looks like garbage. But really, when you get down to it, that's all that they're doing. And functions work like this too. So it might be a function that they call that's setting a variable that's just returning that variable. So it's doing the same thing. It just looks a little bit trickier. And the other thing is car codes. So with ASCII text, all ASCII characters have a car code assigned to them, and you can actually call that with functions. So a lot of times in VB, I think it's just CHAR parentheses and then a number. So they're just going to have all these car codes concatenated together, and then they're building sentences and commands and strings from that. That one, it's not fun, because you're basically just going to pull up an ASCII list and say, okay, what is 42? Okay, that's an A, and then kind of go through it that way. You can automate this to a certain extent. I've built some PowerShell tools. I was hoping that I could like release them to you and say, hey, look at this cool stuff I've done. But it's definitely not ready for prime time. Maybe at some point. But you're just basically just feeding it in car codes, and then PowerShell can quickly convert those car codes into ASCII text, and so you can see it. And because why not? I've got some examples here. So, yep, keep it. All right, so this is invoicedetails.js .text. So I kind of defanged it a little bit. So this is what you're looking at, right? Like, it just looks like garbage, right? Like, function, blah, 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 var, blah, 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 equals, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't look like anything. But if you notice here, like, here's 60/SVN. Oh, I can maximize it. Is that better? Nope. Oh, yeah. Control plus? Hey, now we're rocking. All right. So, yeah, so here we've got 60/SVN. Is that part of a URL? Maybe that's where we're going to start our analysis. Then you kind of scroll down here and you look. There's some numbers. Are they part of an IP address? Oh, there's CMD. Is it calling CMD to run something? Maybe that's where we're going to start our analysis and do something. Here's get. It's just setting a variable here for get. That's definitely going to be part of your dropper here. So, like I said, I mean, this thing is huge. I think if you get to the bottom of it, it's like 500 lines, but it's just all this nonsense of like setting variables and then gluing them together. So if you start going through here and you can pick out stuff, it's the best way to go about it. So here's some of my. I took this file and actually did some deobfuscation on it. And down here you can see where it sets var Zaki3, and that's the URL. So that was just a mashup of a bunch of these function calls here. And you just kind of reference it. I mean, it's easy, right? Control find the function again, and then replace it with the string. And then one other file, just show you here. This is the car code stuff. So this is what you're going to see with something like that. So it's got create object, so we can tell it's VB script. And then you've got car codes where it's like car 77 plus and car 105. And all it's doing is just mashing those ASCII characters together to build strings and commands. So when you see something like that, like I said, roll up your sleeves, pull out your ASCII chart, or write a cool tool. All right, so static analysis. So the second stage, right? So we've decided that this is a dropper. We don't have the bad stuff in the macros. This is a dropper. So now we want to pull down the second stage and see what is the badness, right? So if at all possible, don't download this from your corporate network. That's where we're going to spin up that VPS that we've got in Toledo, Ohio, pull down the malware so it doesn't look like that it's my company pulling it down. It's just a non-attribution thing, right? Don't tip your hand if you don't have to. If you don't get an EXE, so maybe you just get a file name or a string of characters and it doesn't actually look like a file. A lot of times it is an executable. They just don't have the extension on it because a lot of times the macro is going to add that extension later. So if you run the Linux command file on that thing that you download, if it comes back and says it's like a WinPE32, then like that's your binary. Add.exe and you can run it just fine. Again, so once you've got the second stage, generate a hash, search virus total. Is it there? Is it not there? Most of the time, droppers may not show up depending on where people are in their morning coffee. But that second stage is a lot of where the reused code comes from. So that's where the commodity ransomware and stuff comes in. So a lot of times you'll search and you'll find that file was uploaded 3 months ago. But it's going through a different way to kind of breach the barrier. So it doesn't have to use the same kind of obfuscation techniques. Now, if that file's not showing up in virus total, that might be a time to be concerned, right? So that might be a time when you want to engage like your incident response team if you've got something like that. Just letting people know that like we've got something that nobody else has seen before, and it's going to take some next level analysis. Again, probably if it's not showing up in a virus total, I mean you can scan it with your regular AV, but I imagine your AV is not going to find it either. All right, so do your research. Check your mail logs. Who received the email? Sure. So just like I said, make sure to email out everybody that received the file. Let them know that they got the file. Tell them not to open it. And then go through and check. Make sure that nobody opened the file. Check your URL filtering for those URLs that we pulled out of the macros. Did anybody actually call out to it? There should be no record of that being called out to. And if you see a record of that, somebody downloaded the second stage, and at that point, the macro executed it for them. So it's done. That's when you're going to have to take the computer and whatever your virus removal process is. Check firewall logs for IP addresses and calls out like that. And then block it, right? So long-term blocks aren't really going to matter because a lot of times the URLs and the IP addresses and stuff that they're using is a very short-term thing. So a lot of times they're going to use it for a day or two, and then they're just going to nuke the whole thing and start over with new URLs and stuff. So you can block it, and you can maybe set it to expire in 7 days, and then at the end of the 7 days, it's probably not going to be used anymore. You can check. Maybe you want to start with like 30 days and expire it. But I would imagine like 7 days is probably going to be good. So quick wins. How can we reduce our overall malware stuff? So block commonly malicious file types. We're probably already doing that, but how many are you actually blocking? There's a really great link here, How To Geek. It's got 50 file extensions that are potentially dangerous. It's really good. So check that out. I can't say that you can block all of them. It's going to depend on your environment. Some of it could be legitimate stuff. If you're working with outsourcers or something that are sending you PowerShell scripts, you can't block PowerShell. The other thing you can do, they kind of spoiled this at the keynote yesterday, but changing default extensions. So JavaScript by default is going to open up in Windows Scripting Host. Why does it need to do that? Who knows? Let's set that to, you can set that by GPO to open just in text and Notepad. So then if somebody opens it and tries to double-click .js, it's just going to open up in a Notepad, and they're just going to see a bunch of garbage. So kind of defanging that. And changing the file extension to Notepad can be done for any of the files if you can. And then most of the time, if somebody's getting a JS file and they actually need to use it, they're going to know how to open it properly, and it's not going to matter that Notepad's the default. And then the last, encourage trust but verify, right? So your users are smart. I know all users make mistakes. There's always the one user at the company that makes mistakes over and over and over and over. But you'll get there. You'll get there. Eventually, maybe we can get there. I mean, just using common sense, right? Are you expecting files to come from this person? Are you expecting the files to come in this format? Is that a common way that you get files from that person? Do they normally send you PowerShell scripts? No? Then don't open it. These are common sense things that we can teach our users and really build up their security posture from that. And hopefully, and another thing is to use like a second channel. So if you get an email from the user, or teaching your users that if they get an email with an attachment, to use a secondary channel, like pick up the phone and call them. Say, hey, did you send me this file? It's a quick phone call. And if they didn't, maybe you're letting them know that their email's compromised, and then you're doing them a favor too. So further reading, if you're all really jazzed about malware analysis and you want to get in there and do the cool stuff, I really can't recommend enough Practical Malware Analysis by Andrew Honig and Michael Sikorsky. It's really the default book for this type of stuff. It's going to start you from zero, and at the end of it, you're going to be a master of IDA. So it walks you through setting up a lab. It walks you through basic static analysis, basic dynamic analysis, disassembly, debugging. I mean, it's a fantastic book. If you want something a little bit more structured, Rensselaer Polytechnic released an open source course on malware. It actually uses the Practical Malware Analysis book as the course material. So if you want to have something that's a little bit more structured, they have more labs for the malware stuff, do that. And then finally, if you come to Derbycon, Tyler Hudak does a really great Intro to Malware Analysis class. I took it last year, kind of is what got me jazzed up about this. So he's done it for the last several years. Hopefully he keeps doing it because it's a really good, beneficial thing. So that's the end.